Hello and welcome. You are with Lucy and Jeff on our not quite as regular as we hoped when we started it to be Asterix and Obelix stream.
Yeah.
Got quite a busy chat today. So hello Hops, hello Rin, hello Amiga Nuts, Linda. I can see you there. Hello. Who else have we got? Jeff, of course. I think someone who's here from the start.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, as you say, it's been almost a month now since we've done one of these. But a little bit, I've got to say, partially because there was stuff that happened in both of our personal lives that we needed to take a little bit of a break and a bit of time away from doing this. But I think probably as well, and this could be a good start where we get into this. We had to have a real serious think about how we were going to handle this particular book.
Yeah.
And as you can see, the trigger warning has just come up.
You have your trigger warning for this one. Now, I am, in adult media, when it comes to adult media, I am radically anti-censorship. Anyone who knows me probably has gathered this. This is not adult media. This is aimed at children. And the book we're looking at, we've come to the decision that there are pages and pages of this book this week that we cannot, in good conscience, show. So, slightly different format this week. But we're going to roll with it, see how it goes. But, technical errors happen. Things go wrong. If you catch sight of anything that's really distressing to you, we apologise. It's not intended. We will be having a serious discussion about this as it goes on, I'm sure. But this book, I have to say, for me, is one of the worst ones in the Asterix and Obelix setup. Its depictions of Native Americans are... Well, they make Disney's Pocahontas look progressive. Let's put it that way. It's pointed, and some of it is very deliberate.
Yes.
And political as well, in a way that children's comics really shouldn't be. These books set themselves up as for being apolitical. This one is political. There are very pointed political statements being made. So, not the lightest of topics, and I will admit, part of the reason we've had such a delay between the last one and this one is because I've kind of been procrastinating on it. I kind of didn't want to do this one.
Yeah.
But, again, we've said we're going to do the whole series. We'll do the whole series. But we're at the point where I looked at it and I said...
This is bad.
Yeah, this is bad. This is what, 40, 50 pages of the worst of it. I would say it's worse than the worst pages of Asterix and Cleopatra. This is where we're going with this. It's worse than the worst pages of Asterix and the Gladiator.
Yeah.
It's not something to uncritically show to any child. I was actually strongly reminded, and I've already mentioned it once, of Disney's Pocahontas. I grew up watching that, didn't understand what I was looking at and why it was problematic until well into adulthood. And this could very easily be another kid's quote-unquote Pocahontas, if you like, if they're not taught why this kind of depiction is wrong. So, I mean, I would hope if anyone's going to have a discussion with a kid about this book, hopefully some of the things we say here might give you a jumping off point. Although, granted, these streams are not for kids. We will be smoking. I know Jeff's got a drink. And there's no way in hell I'm getting through this stream and not swearing. So please don't show your kids this either.
Yeah.
You know, hissy being hissy and everything else.
We
that's
try.
a warning.
We try not to swear, but sometimes we can't fucking help ourselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts. I'll say this: the actual, I guess, the basic plot of the book is quite fun in a lot of ways, but there are those problems, and
all that said, and I did talk straight for like 5 minutes. So all that said, it's a fun plot. It's a good story. Yeah. I just wish someone would like strap Uderzo's hand down and smack it until he learned to draw people as people. Speaking of as
and
well,
I mean, I got to say as well. I mean, I should probably add this, and I think I know a little, but I'm no expert on Native American history. I try and do it as much justice as I can. But if I get things wrong, about anything we say about that, you know, people are welcome to correct us. It's, I mean, it's not really either of our particular areas, as it is, I think, Native American history. So,
yeah, I am a American history graduate, but most of my American history studies, in fact, all of them, focused entirely on white America, except I think for one module. Where we looked at the civil rights movement in America, which is not Native American history.
I did cover a little bit of. I mean, I did cover West. You know, like history of the Old West at secondary school. So I had a touch on it. I'd certainly touched on it, and I mean, I actually had the book "Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee." I think I still got it in the other room somewhere, but I haven't read it in years. And it's a brick of a book as well. But
I mean, you've read it, so you're doing better than me.
Yeah, and but we are talking. It's been probably at least 20 years since I've opened that book and read it. So, and it is a brick. It is a brick of a book as well, but it's probably one of the better ones about the history of the West. It's quite a, you know, it is. But yeah, I think what we'll probably say of it, what we're dealing with here is sort of really, really bad stereotypes a lot of the time. Really, the stereotype of the savage sort of thing, and that's what we're dealing with.
It's your civil savage stereotype. Yeah. I think as well, given when was this book released?
Mid 70s, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so I mean, Pocahontas was the 80s, so it wasn't an uncommon depiction for its era. Across the world, across the West, the white Western world, as it were. That doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
And I'll keep reiterating this. Art has its place, regardless of how bad it is, but not in children's books.
Okay. That being said, though, I mean, obviously this is very serious. We got to have some serious discussions about what's in this book, but at the same time, these streams are supposed to be fun and light-hearted for the most part. So I think with this, should we just try and get into? We're going to show what we can. Just be aware. There's going to be quite a big section of this book and sections of this book we don't feel we can show. And you're actually right, Ring. Pocahontas was actually the 90s.
Yeah, Pocahontas was the 90s. So we're talking about, that's very recent. That's what I'm getting at. And this is well before that. So again, may have been common for its time, but was not something that... Yeah.
Well...
Anyway, I've had my rant. I've had my early morning hissy fit. That's the start of it. Let's go on.
Okay, so what we got here on the opening page is just speech bubbles, pretty much. You got a woof woof down hunting by this sweet little doggy, you know. Funny sort of idea, taking the dog along, you know. So we're trying to, and it sort of says we're trying to get a sense of what's going on here.
Yeah. I think I like this because it sort of sets you up to think, you know, it's not our dog, because our dog doesn't bark with the O's like that. But it makes you wonder about puppies.
Yeah. And it says at the bottom of the pages, but let us leave these icy silts veiled in dense, impenetrable mists. So,
yeah, I am gonna just say, because thank you, because Hops is in the chat.
Yeah.
If any of these words with the Danish and Norwegian vowels say anything really funny, actually in Norwegian and Danish, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us a translation, Hops.
Yeah, I actually have to say, because I'm actually. Yeah, I actually going to say, because I you've sort of mentioned that to me before, Hops, but obviously I don't know. I don't really sort of know. I won't get the jokes of that. Because I think I in the Danish trans. Or do you want to highlight that one? The Vikings were speaking in poetry, worked a charm, and made it even funnier. Okay. Cheers, mate.
Cool.
So we get to the village here, and we see that Vital Statistics is in a bit of a mood. This is the limit, the absolute limit. He said, "My two shield bearers ate some of your fish yesterday, and they're arriving in agony, half poisoned, and I have to do all their work for them."
That is the definition of just
yeah.
Their job's to hold it. Yeah. There's an interesting comment on management culture and symbolism of power symbolism in this joke, but I don't think I'm just going to leave it at that and let your mind fill in the blanks, because if I try and put it into words, I'll ruin it. It's one of those.
And he's saying, well, he said, "Well, I was expecting a delivery on the ox carts bringing fish from Leticia, but they're on strike, and they're going slow and on a go slow along the Roman roads in the protest against the price of hay." Oh boy, France hasn't changed much, has it?
It hasn't changed much, no.
And it's actually, there's so some of the things we said about some of the like cultural, like there's some of the cultural issues in France with like stuff like this, and like with the cartoons in this, and think publications like Charlie Hebdo and whatever. One thing we kind of got to admire the French for is the fact that they don't seem to take much shit from their government the way we do here in England.
They don't, and they don't take a lot of shit from their employers either. Absolutely, 100% respect that. That's what unions are for, and they've done it well. So.
We used to be better at them than that, but they've gotten a lot better, and we've kind of forgotten.
Yeah, well,
we've forgotten how to act collectively at times in this country. I think.
I don't think we've forgotten so much as the unions in the UK were kneecapped. I won't say the name of the person who did it because I don't want to sour your beer, Jeff.
Yeah. This stream's bad enough already. There's enough controversy just without bringing that particular individual up.
So moving on.
And so of course Fully Automatics has to interject himself here, as they do with any excuse to have a go at the unhygienics, and predictably we end up in a massive brawl. So Asterix and Obelix coming back from hunting some boars, and he said, Obelix, that's not very nice of them. We go off hunting, and and they have some fun behind our backs.
Mm.
And what's going on there? He said, oh, it's the fish again. He said, why don't and I love that? Why don't they eat boar instead? Personally, I never eat fish.
Well, I don't blame you
I
if
love this.
unhygienics is your fishmonger.
Well, he said, well, you ought to. Fish is good for the brain. And Obelix, right? Who said that? I got to admit, that's a good insult.
Well, that's a great insult.
Good old insult, actually.
You don't eat fish. Yeah.
I've got
very clever insult as well, because it leaves the person being insulted to make the final leap.
Yeah. I do enjoy that one. But so we got the Romans outside. Isn't it nice when they fight each other? He says, yeah, it is. So so they're kind of the Romans are quite happy that they don't have to fight them at the moment.
Yeah. So fair enough. And then more arguments about the quality of the fish.
Mm.
Now, I don't know about anyone else, but when I go to the fish market, if it smells fishy, I don't buy it. Fresh fish is not supposed to smell.
Mm.
Have a little bit of the sea on it, yeah, like a slightly salty smell. And of course, you're going to catch, a little bit of blood, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's not supposed to smell bad, so I don't know how none of them noticed. I can only imagine that Unhygienics has just lost his sense of smell.
See, this is the thing. What Asterix suggests to him, he's like, "Why?" He said, "Like, what if you want fresh fish? Why don't you go fishing? Like, our village is right next to the sea. What's the sea got to do with my fish?" I love that. Let me tell you, good sir, I tell top quality fish from Leticia. My customers trust me. I get my fish from the best wholesalers. I'm not just selling any old fish out of the water. You never know when
so people fish presumably in the channel, ship it to Paris.
Yeah.
For them to purchase it wholesale and then sell it back to him, and he's right next to the channel.
Yep, and all this, I'll say, before the age and refrigeration was a thing.
Yeah, so you're looking at that fish has been on the road for at least a week round trip, if not longer.
Yeah, we're being generous there. So we got now Getafix coming in here. No, he said no. I can't. He's trying to say I can't wait for. He needs some fresh. He needs some reasonably fresh fish, as he said, to make magic potion. There's hardly any left. So suddenly the fish supply is a bit more of a suddenly a little bit more of a concern, shall we say?
I wonder if we go through all these books and look at all the different things he's needed for the magic potion, eventually we've got to find the right recipe, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. To be honest, though, you look at all the things he's got in it. I don't care if it gives you superhuman strength. I'm pretty sure it's going to make me. It's going to make you ill.
Yeah, it's going to make you violently ill.
Yeah, well, we know he uses mistletoe, which is not good for you to be consuming anyway.
What else has he got in it?
Well, we know fish. Mind you, it does seem to be all sorts of because this one time it was strawberries, wasn't it? Although he says he just admitted that was just to give it flavour at times.
And then there was one time when it was just tea.
Yeah. Yeah, that was for the British though. That was a placebo though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They used that as a placebo. So somebody's got to go fishing. So
off they go.
You can guess which two are going to volunteer for that.
I feel like they don't so much volunteer as they're like just expected to.
Yeah.
They're voluntold a little bit.
Okay. Now you can see this already that they're setting off to go fishing here. You can see actually the weather ain't too good here. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out in a little sailing boat like that in this kind of weather.
Screen, Scummer.
Sorry.
We've lost your screen. You stopped sharing.
Okay, hold on. What's that happen? Okay,
Please hold.
back.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so to throw out the net Obelix. Yeah, we're all right for, I think, for a little bit. I mean, you might want to, because I've got it on. So you might want to. You might have to be a little couple of pages. You might have to be a couple of pages ahead of me here, possibly. But for this,
you're okay for the next 3 pages.
Cool. And I like this one. I do like this whole thing of throw out the net. So he just throws it overboard.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get the net back now? Just pull it in. Pull it in. I've just thrown it out.
I mean, what we're learning from this is that our friends are not born sailors.
No. It's like you didn't tie the net to something first. And it's like, it's kind of like I'm a many a delivery man, not a fisherman.
That I feel like that's said in the same tone I say, damn it, I'm a historian.
It's the Dr. McCoy thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
damn it, Jim, I'm not a fisherman.
It's very Dr. McCoy, that one. It's a nice little joke there. Apologies if anyone can hear sirens in my background. It's Halloween weekend. They're constant. Right. And the pair of them now. These two, right, I love them. I do. But they pick the worst possible moments to have their little spats.
Yeah.
Like, the ship's going under. Quit arguing. You can argue later when we're on.
I love this. He laughs at me and he can't even sail a boat. I don't need many delivery men giving me advice. And so,
and they've been at it all day.
And quite clearly, oh, hold on. Oh, sorry, my screen's going a bit funny then. Okay.
Can we zoom in a bit so we can see the words on it? That might be helpful.
That's as much as I can zoom in.
Yeah. This boat seems very seaworthy. Asterix. Do you know what that word means?
Sorry.
Okay, so I do love that the puppy smelled something.
Yeah. Telling them to go to sleep. There's nothing around here but us. Okay.
Whoa.
And we see some. That's interesting because we've seen some little POs there.
Growls in Danish.
Or Norwegian. Or Norwegian. Perhaps it's a monster. We've come to the edge of the sea where creatures from the depths of hell. Take it easy, Obelix.
What the?
Now, so nearby, where all the gods' voices, what have you got us into?
Okay, disclaimer: his dyslexia does not like these O's.
No.
I looked at it, even reading it the first time, and I was just like, yeah, the Danish, sort of Danish Norwegian languages I have difficulty reading, so and it is a lot of the letter formation. So let's have a look. Hope Switch says, "No, it just looks funny." Yeah.
Hold on, sorry, I accidentally it skips. I think we'd actually gotten to the edge of that page anyway.
Yeah,
so
there's another one below.
No, are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm zoomed in here.
4 panels.
Okay, we'll never get out of this.
Do you want to try pronounce that, Jeff?
No, I don't actually. Honestly, I'm sure there's a.
I don't know how different letters are spelled in, sounded out in like Dutch or Norwegian. So sorry,
there's
Danish.
Probably a damn good joke there that I just can't read.
The A with the circle above is actually Swedish. There we go. So that even these, whoever these are, who we've probably gathered, are mixing up their languages a bit.
I thought, yeah. So it looks like we've come to the end of the night and we're rising here, the sun. Okay, skip page and okay. Am I okay am I okay still for a couple more pages yet before we have to?
Hang on. Yeah, you're okay on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. This is just.
You can see you can see we haven't come to the edge of the sea. There aren't any monsters at the end. So
I think there was something on the last page. Hopswatcher said about "here ends the lesson."
That's the name of the guy. I was trying to read that. It was here, and yeah, there we go. That was the name. He's pronounced the name of the
Here ends the lesson. Thank you, Hops.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's more of a German joke. In that translates as, you know how everyone talks about Germans just smashing words together.
No, it's just
but it's a Scandinavian thing.
But they do that with all of these books, don't they? It's a name puns.
Yeah, name puns.
Here ends the lesson. Yeah.
Yeah, Hopswatch says it didn't make more sense in Danish though. Well, that's good to know. At least it's, we're not missing anything.
So and they're getting to Obelix is getting hungry. He says, "If you hadn't told," and I love this. Think of this: if you hadn't told me to throw out the net, we could have caught some fish. Or I'd rather eat a boar, of course. But
Okay, now, as we expect, we're about to run into our friends the pirates, and all that entails, which means the bottom half of the next page is problematic. So just leave it there, Jeff.
Okay, but so they're out.
Yeah.
There's a site, and it looks like they're having a big party for the captain here. So
yeah, it actually looks quite good.
Right. Okay. So I can't quite remember what. I mean, I assume I can't exactly remember what happens. Or I don't really want to scroll down here. So
yeah, no. So what essentially happens? It's the captain's birthday, and our friend the Numidian pirate is not a happy bunny that they're now running into Asterix and Obelix in their own boat. Tiny little boat against this giant pirate galleon, so they're bored. This looks like they're sneaking on board. And in the middle of a rendition of Happy Birthday. So if you skip the next page, Jeff, and
this one as well.
You want the one with the cake at the top.
I'm on the one now where Asterix and Obelix are boarding them at the top of that page.
So you don't want the rest of that page.
I've got I've got the top half of it, not the bottom.
Yep, and then you're okay for the next page.
Okay.
But don't scroll down.
Right. Okay. So I've got to a point now where they've relieved the pirates of a lot of their food.
Suckling pig, fish, cake. These pirates are not very good pirates, are they?
They probably are very good pirates. They just have a lot of bad luck that they keep running into these two.
Yeah, but these two are better accidental pirates than the pirates are.
Yeah.
Actual pirates.
And I love the fact that he's like, we must ration ourselves. I think the storm blew us a long way from home.
Yeah, so we have
and then soon afterwards, Obelix, you really ought to do it. I told you should ration ourselves. Well, I have. I kept this apple for later.
Oh, you're right. Now then, let's take a snooze. Maybe we were wrong to leave them the sausage.
Yeah.
It's driving us towards the setting sun, so they're heading west.
Yep.
This is what we know. Next page is okay.
So they're now to the point where they're dividing up that apple into very fine pieces. There's still just a drop of rainwater if you're thirsty. And then Dogmatics, he swallowed. Green Dog, you swallowed all our ration on one gulp. And it looks like Obelix is starting to hallucinate a little bit.
Yeah.
And he and Doggo, but they all end up diving in.
Yeah.
Don't know what came over me.
Don't follow the person who's hallucinating off a ship.
And
pro tip, folks.
They lost the boat now.
Yeah, we're okay for the next page.
So I think they found a branch to hang on to. And as he points out, that if there's a branch floating, that means they can't be too far from land.
Yeah, I mean, statement of the bleeding obvious, but
yeah,
I have no argument with that.
So they're thinking, oh, good, we're home again. You know, they think they rush us short. Now this is where we're going to have to start being a little bit.
Yeah, so we're okay for this page. So Dogmatics has picked up the scent of something.
Yeah.
And from the words, you would think it was. We're okay. We're okay. Next page.
Okay. We got ourselves some turkeys.
We got a turkey.
I like this though. What it tastes like first. You light the fire. And that gobbler's got lots of friends that will have something to eat for a while. He's not having any problem catching them, is he?
No. I mean, it's not like they fly or anything.
No, I mean, I don't. I mean, and then he catches a bear as well, a bit later as well.
Yeah, I thought he was looking for a boar, found a bear. Next page is okay.
Okay.
Kind of, but there are some. Don't leave it there, please. Don't scroll down. Okay. Yeah, there's some. I'm gonna say we can show this one. Be aware it's silhouettes, but it gives you an idea of what we're actually.
Yeah, if we just show this, just to give you some context of why we got an issue, just to illustrate our point, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, you can scroll down, but I just wanted to give that warning first.
This signer here, okay. That's tame
for this book.
That's tame. That's I think that's just to illustrate the point we've got of why. And the fact of the matter as well is it not just the fact that it's whether we're comfortable with showing it as well. It's at the end of the day, it's whether YouTube could get funny about any of this or anything, because it could easily lead to someone complaining if we show any more than that.
And the thing is, I'm not comfortable showing it anyway. I'm skidding my nose up just at that.
See,
just to give you an idea of what.
Well, I think I'll get it off the screen now. Then.
Yeah.
I mean, what I think the best thing to do is maybe to remove the share screen in a minute.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to try and narrate as best we can with this.
Yeah, I mean, The next page after this is all right, because there is this. It's a little bit amusing, the way Asterix does it. He Obelix appears to think there are Romans in the area.
Yeah.
Because Dogmatix has once again picked up the scent.
Yeah.
Now, I will say the idea of conflating who we know they're going to find with Romans leaves a sickly taste in my mouth. But a little bit less, yeah, that's minor. And Asterix tells them to be quiet. And they're getting to a screaming match.
Are you still sharing here?
Yeah, I'm still sharing. You can show the next page. It's fine.
I'll click the next page. We're fine. Okay.
Yeah. This one's fine. It's just Asterix and Obelix screaming at each other.
Yeah.
Which, and this is the last sort of okay page for a while. So, I've stopped sharing the screen. So you're all right, Jeff.
Okay. Cool.
And then there's this comment from Asterix on the next page of these Romans. I can't see or hear them. Fiendishly clever. But maybe they sent for some crack troops from Rome. And we see the silhouette of a local native in a tree imitating the sound of a turkey. Which, I mean, fair hunting tactic. Don't, if you want to hunt an animal, sound like an animal, don't we have duck whistles and things?
Yeah. Of course, Obelix goes charging straight into the middle of that situation. Asterix gets a
bonk on the head.
Yeah, he gets a tomahawk thrown at the back of his head, and he gets knocked out cold while Obelix has gone off chasing turkeys.
Yeah. And this is where the depictions get really crude. We're talking, I'll call it a Roman nose, but it's not. Body paint, crude. It's not even clothing, is it?
It is. It is absolute stereotyping. It really at this point it is bad stereotyping of
using Stone Age tomahawks and spears.
I mean, let's be honest. Native Americans for a start knew how to make flipping clothes. They didn't just run around with little cloths around their waists to cover their
they didn't just wear loincloths for a start.
Yeah. I mean, there's the and I mean, they're obviously kind of going with the sort of stereotype of the sort of nomadic, the sort of nomadic tribes. So, and yes, a lot of the tribes were nomadic, but not all of them.
Yeah, and also a lot of them
built a lot of them built very fixed settlements. Some, I mean, I think it was one that the Anasazi actually built what we would definitely call a city, and a quite advanced city.
Yeah. So, and even in modern day context of when we talk about nomadic tribes, say in the Amazon, we're not talking about entire tribes that moved once a fortnight. What we're talking about tribes who will clear ground, settle on it for 10, 15 years, then move on. And we've actually, I studied this a little bit in high school, so we're going back a bit, so bear with me. They have a process, they call it slash and burn. Essentially, in the Amazon, they come along, they clear the trees, they use the ash from the trees and the wood from the trees, they fertilize the land with the ash, use the wood to build homes, huts, things like that.
Yeah. Sorry, I just got to get up for a sec.
Yeah.
Let me just turn my camera off. But Yeah, sorry, I just need to stand up for a sec, actually.
Yep. And then they live on it for a while until it, until they've essentially used up the land and it's no longer fertile. Then they burn everything down, refertilize the land, and move on, and don't come back to that same land until the trees have regrown and the land has recovered itself. It's a very sustainable way of living. And they move on. And the Amazon's so big that they essentially, the same tribe in 3 or 4 generations will never live on the same land.
I think they get that. Yeah, I mean, what they're doing here is they're going for the whole, like a bit like the whole, what the Native Americans you associate with the plains or whatever. Really, were a bit more nomadic. Because they a lot of the time they followed the migrations of buffalo herds or whatever.
But what I'm getting at is when you see these tribes who are not, I'm not going to say civilized, I'm going to say urbanized. When they're not urbanized and they're not permanently settled, there is always a geographical and usually a natural reason for the way they live. It's usually entirely sustainable, and it very rarely has a negative impact on the local geography or the local environment long term. They live in a very sustainable way. And the reason I say that is because there are a lot of people who, especially again talking about the Amazon tribes, because that's kind of what I know a bit about.
Yeah.
People who use the way they live to justify logging in the Amazon, which is an entirely different kettle of fish. If they're cutting down trees, why can't we? Well, they're cutting down 2 football pitches every 10 years. You're cutting down 2 football pitches every 10 minutes.
Yes.
Let's put this into perspective here. So it is, there is sustainability, and it is this attitude of, well, the way we do it is, okay because we're urbanized or anything else. It's not. And they do draw this book really draws a binary between European rural and
I will say
Native American rural.
Ring has definitely pointed out something very good in the chat there about the nomadic nomadic tribes were on the Great Plains, but the vast majority of Native American peoples had very much developed agriculture. That was their main sustainable, and it was like a lot of times people do they've adapted to their environments.
Yeah. And it's only really since the Industrial Revolution that human beings don't adapt to our environment anymore. We adapt our environment to us. We destroy our environment.
I mean, I actually remember seeing an interview with, I forget what nation he belonged to. There was it was with a Native American, and it's even with now with some people who are, I suppose, are trying to be allies, but still have that very patriarchal kind of notion to them that they're abandoned. Like they're trying. Like I said, that some people said we're trying to help, but weren't liking the way that they're saying that they were abandoning their culture by opening up casinos or something on our lands. He says,
there is a.
He said he pointed out this is the biggest thing about our culture is that we have always adapted it to survive. So I don't
exactly. So if opening casinos is how they survive, have at it.
Because they probably because you said you've got those 2 sort of depictions or whatever that is in popular culture of a lot of of them. You had the sort of the savage or whatever that was the very common trope going, and then you had sort of other films, but it was still depicting them as there was just the savage, and then you had the other one, which the noble savage sort of thing.
Yeah, and there is a context within the US especially of white settlers going there, quote unquote, in very blunt terms, kidnapping the children from these nations and brainwashing them into and raising them as white.
Yeah.
This happened. This was not, so any depictions you see of Native Americans, there's a lot of, from that era, there's a lot of like newspaper cartoons of Chief arrives dressed in his native regalia and leaves in a three-piece suit kind of cartoons going on, entitled, The Noble Savage or The Savage Civilized. It's not nice.
No, but it's like, it's sort of like you got the ones that are the depictions of native peoples as being savage, but then all sort of others that are, I suppose, are trying to be more sympathetic, but still got a patriarchal, like a film like Dances with Wolves, for example. Good example.
Yeah, no, there is an undercurrent of the white man's burden.
Yeah,
I'll say it. It's the whole white man's burden thing.
Even if films like that try and treat the cultures of native people with a bit more respect than, say, films or books from a few years previously used to do.
Yeah, it's the white man's burden, the white savior complex, and there's a lot of sort of manifest destiny going on. These are very academic terms that you've probably heard of used by lay people, but you can Google any one of those terms and find a lot of the history about it.
See, I mean,
they are very loaded terms that I do not use lightly. I use them in their academic context.
Sammy's here. Hi, Sammy.
Sammy, hey, Sammy.
But yeah, I mean, a good example. I mean, a good example. I mean, I'll just take a very little detour here, just to make a little point about sort of perceptions we have of native peoples or whatever. Now, I don't know how many films or things that have been made about the Battle of the Little Bighorn.
I wouldn't want to know, but I bet the Wikipedia page is long.
Oh yeah, but I just realised I'm not on screen. But hold on. But the point being is that what you tend to see is you tend to see these little handful of white cavalry officers or whatever with their guns.
Hang on, Jeff, you've frozen. Please hold, folks. Technical error. Hang on, what's going off? Hang on, I'll do this to give Jeff time to recover. So, yeah. Also, I will point out there is the issue of language and linguistics on this one. I am not as well read on what the correct terminology is as I would like to be. So if I misuse a term and or if Jeff misuses a term, we don't, we are trying to be as gentle as we can with this. Yes, I can see. This is what's happened, folks. Jeff has lost the internet, so he'll be back, we hope. So I'm still here, so I'm going to try and carry this, but we all know what I'm like. I babble when I'm on my own. But I do want to say this, as I've put running across your page right now. Disclaimer, I am not an expert. I am nowhere near it. I am barely even understanding of the issues around this. I know them vaguely. It's one of those things my education never touched on, and it's a serious lack of knowledge I have. Now, I did a fair bit of quick Google it before this stream, but there's only so much you can learn from randomly clicking links on Wikipedia and hoping for the best. So yes. We have Jeff. He is back.
Right.
But
touch wood, that won't happen again.
Touch wood, that won't happen again. Now,
okay.
I think Jeff...
I'll have to I still got my screen. I won't have to share it until we need to again. But I was in the middle of saying something. I think it was on the Little Bighorn thing, wasn't I?
Yeah, you were. Yeah.
Now I apologise if I've missed what you said, but I was mainly just talking about the kind of the popular culture perception of we sort of see. I mean, anyone's seen that old film like Custer of the West or whatever, where it's, you just see these these guys with white soldiers with their carbine rifles fighting off hordes and hordes of Native Americans with their bow and arrow and their tomahawk. And what one thing that tends to get left out an awful lot about that battle, I mean, it's a historical pop thing. It wasn't just the Native Americans outnumbered the 7th Cavalry.
They outclassed them massively.
They outclassed them, but more importantly, they outgunned them. They had better weapons than the 7th Cavalry had single shot carbine rifles.
Yeah, like musket type style.
Most of the forces under Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse had repeating rifles, and like they did the Henry or the Winchester repeating rifles. So it was, So it was. I mean, and of course, there's the whole myth of the last step, but that's something that really almost all popular depictions will say that battle, now I've lost Hissy.
No, I'm still here. I'm just giving you the screen because you've got something interesting to say.
Yeah. It's more. I just think about what you have got with how perceptions are on this. I think we've taken quite a detour from our story here, and I know we've had to because we've got to address these depictions, and I know we're not showing them on screen because we don't feel we can, but I think we need to kind of get back on track here.
Yeah.
And so they've got. We're probably gonna have to try and get through it. We're going to have to skip through this a little bit because I'm also conscious about being done in time for rings for one ring. So
yeah. Although he has said he might start a bit late today.
Okay, but
so there is one that I'm going to describe it. I'm not going to show it. Yes, Ring. I
agree. I totally agree.
Custer was an egotistical moron and got curb stomped for his racist attitudes. Can I take that quote, embroider it, and frame it?
That's yeah. I mean, I'd say there's more to it than that, but I'm not. You're not wrong. I'll say that you're not wrong at all.
So there's one where they essentially Obelix gets caught by surprise by these natives, and there's one pair of panels that go together. One row of panels on this page, smack in the middle, that I have to comment on, just because the politics of it are very.
All right, I'll just tell you what page I'm looking at. I'm looking at the page where he shakes the guy out of the tree. Is that the one?
Right. So no, I'm looking at the page where he the page after that.
Okay.
He gets surprised by the natives, and Obelix, as he always does, thinks with his fists and smacks this poor native. Well, I say poor because of what follows next. Is a drawing where this native has been hit so hard, the background behind him changes colour to blue and he sees stars in what is quite clearly a depiction of the top left corner of the US flag.
Yeah.
So basically, France is hitting the Native Americans so hard they see American states.
Okay.
Breathe, hissy.
Okay.
Right.
So better explain your...
This is all around the history of colonialism in America. A white person hits them so hard they see American states. This is not something that it's pointed. Like in America, several countries tried to colonize the so-called New World, including France.
Yeah.
And they largely all took the same
approach,
tactics with regards to First Nation peoples, which was first it was just genocide, and then it was divide and conquer and genocide. And so this is a history lesson in 2 panels. But the fact that we are supposed to be sympathetic towards Obelix leaves a nasty taste in my mouth.
And it's not the cigarette. I mean, admittedly, I interpreted this a little bit differently when I first saw this, but then again, looking at the date this was released, I may be wrong about this, because I figured that this book was done in the mid-70s, and I figured it was being done around the bicentennial of the United States. So I don't know if they were trying to do something around that, but maybe that was just I interpreted it differently. But I don't think I don't think your interpretation's wrong. I'm just saying it is. It's a joke that's open to interpretation, but it's definitely.
It's incredibly problematic either way you cut
it. Yeah. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong, but.
No, I mean, as Hobbs is saying in the chat as well, he saw the stars as a gimmick. It might just be a gimmick, but the fact that you're hitting a native so hard, they see these stars that represent the states of America, you cannot get away from the fact that that is an incredibly colonial image. And that is an incredibly problematic image, suggesting that the natives had to be beaten into submission. And that, there's just so many layers of problems with that particular imagery. And then followed immediately by a panel in which Obelix takes the person he's just punched and shakes him hard while asking Roman, where's Asterix? Roman, trying to change the narrative again of who's the colonizer here. And while
I've got to be honest with you. I mean, I see where you're coming from. I don't know, and I'm not making excuses for Goscinny and Uderzo, but I doubt they put as much thought into what they've done here.
I doubt they did initially.
But
the point is, Asterix and Obelix throughout this, in the beginning, really, really take shots at natives by conflating them with the Romans, even accidentally, on the part of Asterix and Obelix. And it really does highlight that initial response that people arriving in America had of, us versus them, making themselves the victim.
Yeah.
Now, this is important because what's missed out in a lot of history lessons, and I'm going to say white people, when British, Spanish, French explorers, colonialists, whatever you want to call them, arrived in America, they were welcomed. They were not beaten off with a stick. They were welcomed. And that matters. That matters because it shows that these native people were not unwilling to share the land and the space. It was only when these white people started with their missionary work and their proselytizing, and they're trying to force their culture on the land they'd arrived in that it became an issue.
I mean, it's by and large, certainly in North America, it was the case. I think probably in South and Central America,
not so much.
Well, let's just say, I'd say the ruling powers in the sort of Central and Southern America empires didn't particularly welcome the Spanish. Some tribes did. Like there are some, I would say some people who were perhaps under had been subjugated by, say, the Aztec or Inca empires. Some people probably did ally them because they saw the Spanish as potential liberators, and perhaps, and I'm sure the Spanish would let them believe that as well.
As Ringer's put in the chat there, this is a discussion when we're talking about this kind of presentation. It's malice versus laziness on the part of the artists.
But ultimately, the result's the same. And I think Ringer's right there. I mean, and that's perhaps the only thing where we can really just I wouldn't necessarily say we got a disagreement about, but it is whether we're subscribing this to malice or ignorance.
Do I think it's as malicious as I've just described it? Realistically, probably not. No. However, given Uderzo's track record with other people of colour, I don't think it's pure laziness, and I don't think it's pure innocent ignorance. I think there's a combination of motives behind this. And, rest his soul, if he was a Christian, he's, or whatever God he believed in, the man's dead. We can't ask him.
Yeah.
And
the ironic thing is, we started doing these streams as a result of me doing a tribute stream to him, and I forgot how bad some of his stuff was when you did that, I suppose. But I mean, and I've got to say, it could be interesting because in a few weeks we're going to be getting into the books that Uderzo wrote by himself, because we're getting to the end of the collaboration with Goscinny, who was the main writer of the books, and Uderzo did the artwork. So be interesting to see if there is a change. And what I've heard and what I've seen, not that much, but anyway, we've got this thing there. And again, I can, looking at the page I'm looking at, I can see why I wouldn't want to show this on my channel even, but we're in the camp here, and you've got Obelix has dragged this native that he has knocked out into the camp, and Asterix is tied up to a post, and they're all dancing around in the circle with banging the tom-tom sort of thing. I mean,
yeah, it's a very stereotypical white man arrives in the tribe to them dancing around the fire and yodeling, or whatever the word is, undulating. I can never pronounce that word. You know which one I mean, with making the sound with the back of the throat and the tongue.
I don't know. I can't know what they call it, honestly. I'm sure Ring or Hops, someone in the chat can let us know.
And Obelix mistakes what we are left to presume is the chief, judging by his stereotypical posture of arms crossed, head back, big chief. Is there centurion? So he decides he'll have a word.
And large headdress as well, compared to everyone else.
And Obelix, they seem to have decided that these natives are Thracians. It is telling that as they discussed it, they decided they might be Thracians, Numidians, and basically ran through every non-white race we've seen so far in this set of books. So they are aware that these are not, white people. And they're not shying away from that, which is fair.
Yeah.
But that then brings its own baggage. Actually, that's a very interesting commentary on Columbus and how he assumed when he saw these people, they must be Indian. This land must be India. These people must be Indians. And how that stuck. And there's a lot of little historical allusions throughout this book to things like that going on.
And I mean, again, and they got. I noticed here as well that you have the same native who wakes up, and he keeps attacking Obelix, and again, it's almost as if he's too stupid to not, learn his lesson. Every time he wakes up, he keeps attacking Obelix and getting knocked out. And they do the same joke again. This time they've done it with the I think it's the US Air Force logo star.
Yeah.
At the bottom of the page I'm looking at here.
Again,
above his head.
Yeah, US Air Force stars. It's the Top Gun symbol.
Yeah.
Which is why, having read this obviously before we went live, which is why I took such issue with the first one, because I knew this was going to follow. And the first one, you can take it as it's a bit of a gimmick. By the time you get here and we're seeing militaristic symbols and natives being knocked out and seeing militaristic symbols, this is not a gimmick. This is a pointed statement. Once I can go, yeah, it's accidental, it's lazy. That's deliberate.
And I think I think we get onto this point now where, I mean, he's tried. There's obviously they can't really communicate here because they don't speak the same language.
Yeah.
But I won't read that joke when he thought he was.
When he thinks he's a Creation, and then Asterix says maybe they're Cretans.
Yeah, so I wasn't particularly enamored with that joke personally, but
I wasn't either. Although the next page with all the pink panels,
yeah,
there's an interesting bit of self-awareness going on with Asterix and Obelix, who kind of mime who they are. We're brave. We only have one fear. We like a bit of a joke. We like our food and drink. Sometimes we lose our tempers. We're a rowdy lot and we like a punch-up, but we love our friends. In short, we're goals.
Yeah. And I will admit there is a panel at the bottom where I do kind of, I did find a bit of humour in this one.
Yeah.
And that was that the Native American chieftain starts
tapping his head
tapping his head like this, which is whenever Obelix shows these Romans are crazy.
That's what they're doing, and Obelix thinks that means, oh, I understand. Which,
Hi, PJ.
There are some good jokes here about miscommunication and a failure to understand each other's language. There are some good jokes in that regard. Hi, PJ. So, yeah. Now, and then we get on, and it seems that one of these natives presumably walks up to Obelix. He's a big bloke, built like a fighter.
Very big, muscular guy, yeah.
Places a spear in the ground in front of him, and Obelix and Asterix take this as a challenge. So Asterix walks up to him and sticks a knife in the ground in front of him. And the natives laugh. So I think there's a size joke going on there.
Yeah, probably.
One for the adults.
And this is also, I mean, there generally is generally as well, it's when you get these people who come up against Asterix and don't know about this potion that he's got. He tends to get underestimated because he is a small guy.
Yeah. So they then get their faces painted and their bodies painted, and Dogmatix is laughing at Obelix with his chest painted, and he's and then they're invited to the traditional campfire scene. And by traditional campfire scene, I mean the one that appears in all depictions of Native Americans when the white person appears at the tribe. This is very I don't know, it might be Dances with Wolves, it might be another one, but I've got memories of like a Kevin Costner style person arriving in the
Yeah.
tribe, not speaking the language, miming sort of vainly, and eventually being sat down to eat and accidentally married to the chief's daughter. That seems to be kind of the vibe that these pages are giving.
That's very much, I think, what tends to happen here as well is yeah, then you get to Sinkwing where they're invited to do the sort of dance around, and then they ask them to go hunting with them. And Obelix, okay, he starts doing a lot of the dancing or whatever. He suddenly starts thinking he suddenly thinks they're Iberians and starts doing the Spanish sort of dance, which they start mimicking themselves doing the ole sort of thing.
Yeah, and then the natives are looking at him like he's crazy, which to them, I suppose. Yeah. And then they start to mimic him. Again, it's this let's make the guest feel welcome kind of look they've got going on. And then there is a wonderful bit of artwork. If we can see this page, Jeff, at the top half of the page.
Which one are we talking about?
Where they draw Asterix and Obelix hunting when they get home.
Well, okay. Let me just share. Let me just share this quickly. I just remembered I need to do that again, don't I?
Yeah.
That one? Is that what you're on about?
Yeah, that's the one. Now we're not going to scroll down the page because the rest of it's really, it's got an issue. But this is actually really nicely done.
I'll tell you what I'll do, Hissy. I'll leave it there, and if you need to remove it from the screen, just do so.
Yeah. And this is, this artwork, very nicely done, and a good way of communicating. Yeah, so the Iberian joke is, as Hops has just said, very anachronistic. The Ole is actually adapted from the Moors, and it's and it's actually the Islamic Allah. So
it would have been much later than the Roman period, just definitely.
Yeah, I will say we do. I was going to go on to a discussion of anachronisms. There's a lot of them in this book. I mean, there's a lot of them in Asterix and Obelix in general, but there's a lot of them in this book, and I do generally hand wave it.
I think we did.
It's a children's story.
We did talk about a few of them, didn't we? When we the very first book, I think we touched on them.
We did. There's a lot of it going on.
Right. I'm still. Oh, this is still on screen, is it?
Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, if we just
it's off screen now.
Then I can start scrolling. They get the thing with the chieftain's daughter here as well, who seems a little smitten with Obelix. And I'm not even going to go into it because it's fat jokes about this. It's not to me. But I'll tell you something. Now, when they did a film adaptation of this in the mid-90s, and I think it was Craig Charles was doing it, the Native American girl who falls in love with Obelix in this is drawn as an absolutely stunningly beautiful woman. So they sort of toned the joke down a bit here, but
Obelix takes issue with the fact that she's a centurion's daughter. He doesn't want to be a centurion's son-in-law. And I think there's. I
get where the whole thing of, Obelix calling somebody fat is like, because he gets so annoyed when people call him that.
Yeah, and it is very much there's I don't want to say what I'm gonna come across as like, okay, we all know I'm very interested in social justice. I like to think I tore the line between being reasonable and not, but there is a very gendered imbalance in Obelix's, shall we say, attractions and his perceptions of what women should be. There is throughout these books. It's, there are two kinds of women in these books. There are housewives and there are sex objects, and that there doesn't seem to be any difference.
Yeah.
That's only it. So in this book, the Native American daughter is kind of already on her way to being a housewife the way she's depicted. She's depicted. I mean, I personally would put it as, she's curvy. She's a well-built woman. She's strong. She's well-built. She's not the blonde bombshell from 2 or 3 books ago. She's not that.
Yeah. As I said, in the film version of this, which is just called Asterix Conquers America, which is loosely based on this. There's a girl who as a native girl who Obelix saves, and of course she's drawn a little bit more like, say, Disney's Pocahontas sort of thing.
Yeah,
as a sort of stunningly beautiful sort of.
The thing is with that in itself has its problematic elements.
It totally does.
It's more the issue of Obelix. Obelix is a hypocrite, okay? He eats like a pig. He's a slob, and he expects all his women to look like they've just stepped off the catwalk. Yeah. He's a hypocrite.
Yes.
And as much as we love him, he's sweet. He likes animals. He's got serious issues with women. Dude needs therapy. But yeah, as Ring just put in the chat, a Native American woman as sex object trope is a thing. It really is a thing. So it's difficult to, in cartoons, I think, draw a native woman who not fall into one trope or another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Particularly when she's interacting with a European.
Yes.
That's interesting. You said it was called Asterix Conquers America, but in the Danish title was Asterix Discovers America.
Yeah, I think it's probably there's different titles to it. I think there's some called Asterix in America. It was released here. I think it's Asterix Conquers America.
No comment.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, so no comment. But
the only thing I know about our version, and I say the English version because I do know that in some of these they've done an Americanized version with Americans voicing him as well as. I do remember that Craig Charles, who's people who are not familiar, he's best known as Lister in Red Dwarf, voices Asterix in that film.
Now I want to see that. I'll have to grit my teeth and just
a Scouse Asterix,
yeah, Scouse Asterix. I need to see that. So anyway, back to the story. Obelix has been accidentally married to the chief's daughter. And in this entire thing's just a trope of how white people interacted with natives at first contact. At night, he decides he's going to sneak out. He and Asterix are going to sneak out, Obelix and Asterix. And
steal the canoe there, don't they?
Yeah, steal a canoe. And they don't appear to realize whose canoe they've stolen. But this is where we get onto the second of our and this one is very interesting because it doesn't just deal with one group of people that they run into. Now, I have to say, this is kind of a literary volta within this text of they go from dealing with the natives to dealing with Nordic.
I'm going to skip a page or two ahead because I think are we done with the Native American depictions now?
I think there's some more a bit later on.
Let me just check.
No, there's one more later on. There's a page of it later on, but I'll warn you.
Yeah, because I'm saying in a minute we can probably go back to sharing screen for a while, can't we?
Yeah,
because I've got to say, there is something I do want to zoom into that they go gone across to this. Even though they've managed to sink the canoe here, they've ended up on this other little island, and look what they run into. And I want to zoom into. I want to zoom because I just love.
This ship. This ship is and the detail of it is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
And we finally see the Nordic dog who's been barking.
Yeah. But proper Viking long. It looks a lot big. I mean, from the picture here, it looks a lot bigger than your average long ship.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to look that big if you're in a canoe going down, isn't it?
Generally, my understanding was that when they put those like the beast heads, they were either like a dragon or a raven, or they could be a number of different or an eagle. They were generally depicting a number of different beasts or whatever. That was generally a symbol that they put them on when they were raiding, which is what the word Viking kind of means, is raider.
Yeah.
So the word Viking more describes what the people were doing rather than who they are.
And the thing is, the cultures that Vikings came from, I think it would be, and this is massive overgeneralization again. Again, disclaimer, not an expert. From my understanding, from what we understand of it, and you've got to realize the word Viking is not a word they applied to themselves, first of all. But if we say all Vikings were Nords, not all Nords were Vikings, it gives you a flavour.
I think they may have. I think that I might be, but I may have this completely wrong. In fact, I'm guessing I probably do. But I think there was these were Vikingar or something, which is what they describe when they would go raiding. I'm not, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that as well.
Yeah.
And so I apologize. And I'm sure. Believe me, if I'm butchering anything in Danish, I'm sure Hops is going to let me know very quickly. So,
but this is what we're saying. We're basically saying, look, this is a very narrow view of people of that area. This is a view of what the raiders, not of the entire culture, which is fair because that's what.
And I will definitely get on to this on the next page. Do you want to say it or shall I? It's one of the things that really. Yeah, okay. My favourite thing that pisses me off about depictions of Nordic Norse works. This thing, horned helmets. They did not wear helmets like that. That seems to be very much like a 19th century kind of thing. I mean, of course they had helmets they wore, armored helmets, but no, they weren't. If there was anything like that, it was for like a ceremonial purpose or anything like that. It was.
Yeah, there's a famous helmet held at the Leeds Armories, just up the road from me. And it doesn't have horns. And they make a point if you walk through the museum of saying those helmets wouldn't have had horns. First of all, they're just really impractical. This is another one like with the helmets with the Romans. Like not every Roman had a sweeping brush on top of his helmet. And he certainly didn't have it pointed, in straight forward.
Well, that was what I mean. Generally, I thought that was something to do with rank anyway.
little bit of a rank, but definitely not every soldier. And there's a difference between Greek helmets, which were what we would stereotypically think of as pointing forward, and Roman helmets that were sort of the broad sun style one. Although it may be the other way around. My brain's not working. It's one of them.
He does say horned helmets have been found in Denmark, but they're from the Bronze Age, clearly ritual.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
They're not helmets you're going to wear to war, is what I'm saying.
No.
So, apparently it was I'm going to pronounce that Wagner, like the musician.
Yeah. Like
who popularized the horned helmets.
Richard Wagner. I mean, everyone knows that, about the Ride of the Valkyries,
And just as a side note, everything we know about those cultures comes through a relatively later Christian lens. That isn't an actual material culture that we found in the ground. That isn't archaeology. So all of our textual resources come through a Christian lens. That immediately makes it potentially unreliable.
Well, even with some of like the mythology with the poetic and prose eddas, you got to remember were written very much in a Christian era. So even the sort of lot of the Norse mythology we know is got a kind of been Christian been sanitized a bit to be.
I think it was a monk who wrote it down originally.
Snorri. So I forgot. Damn it! That's going to annoy me. I think this guy's Snorri. I forget the surname. That's doing my head in right now. And I know as soon as we go off stream, I'm gonna remember that. But yeah, so anyway, we're
Snorri's Edda, Snorri Sturluson.
Yeah, I knew it began with that.
I can't pronounce that.
Sturluson.
I work in a call center. I should be able to pronounce these words, but I can't. So this is how it's pronounced. Thank you, Hops.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually just what Ring would say. Yeah, I think if Ocean Keltoy was listening to the way us trying to pronounce that, he'd have a fit.
Apologies to anyone whose ears are ringing right now. I apologize wholeheartedly.
Anyway, these guys are obviously on their journey to of discovery here. And of course, there is evidence that Norse men did. I mean, well, it's established now that they found there was a colony in Newfoundland that survived for a while. But this is before the Viking Age, really.
And again, it's made very clear very quickly that this is a raiding ship, because they are literally there. Quote, "I shall discover this land and take some of its natives to prove it."
Yeah.
And I think they do actually, at some point, consider the people that they've captured as literal slaves. They say those words. So
they said, "Look by Odin." So
yeah. Now don't scroll right down because I want to have a discussion about something. So Asterix and Obelix finally find land, and there's a ship. So they wave the ship down, and they do this by Asterix lights a torch, builds up some stones, and climbs atop them.
Okay. Can I show it now?
Yeah.
Can I show it now?
This, I think, is a fantastic illusion. It's one of the few truly funny jokes in this book.
Yeah. That is good.
Yeah, because we now know they've clearly, we know exactly which island they've washed up on, and we know, that wasn't an accident.
Yeah, and of course, people know where the Statue of Liberty came from.
Yes, the Statue of Liberty was gifted to America by the French.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the thing. I mean, I actually realized this book was released just before the bicentennial of the United States, and obviously there's a lot of history there because France did play quite a role in their helping the United States get international recognition and its independence from Britain.
Yeah, there was a lot of. If you look at the history of the American War of Independence, if you were sympathetic to the French, you were sympathetic to the Americans in sort of British history.
Yeah.
And there's, records of parliamentary debates and things of, they essentially seem to view it as a bit of a proxy war with France. Okay, yes, it was the American War of Independence, but on top of that, there was a bit of a proxy war with France going on as well.
Yeah. And it's I mean, I'm pretty sure the first person to ever get granted a dual citizenship in the United States is which is was the Marquis de Lafayette.
That sounds about right.
Anyways, we got these
massive influence in America. There are still areas of America where, if I'm going to say a version of French, and when I say America, I mean the United States, where a version of French is still spoken. They have Louisiana French is the famous one, and obviously there are areas of Canada where French is the spoken language, and that's because the French have been there at least as long as the British have. The Dutch were there for a while. The Spanish were there. This was, it was a bit of a, when they found it, there was kind of a, in much the same way they did with Africa when they found it. It was, they were sending out, quote unquote, explorers and trying to claim the land.
I gotta say, I did like this thing where they come ashore here. And he's trying to entice them with sort of like a gift or something. And I love the fact that Asterix saying they must be door-to-door salesmen trying to flog their stuff.
And I do like the joke that you skipped over there of when he jumps off the boat, he says, "One small step for me, a giant leap for mankind."
Yeah.
It just sort of came to me, he said.
Okay, so he's trying to get them aboard the ship, and he thinks Asterix. They can't. Now there's a language barrier here, just to explain.
Here.
They cannot. Even though we can kind of read what they're saying to one another, which is also makes me wonder why they couldn't have done something similar with the Native Americans in this. Give them a bit of dialogue or something, rather than like hand signals or whatever.
But this, again, is why I am more falling on the side of I believe there's a little bit of malice going on in the writing of this. Because it's pointed. And it's pointed that these, white raiders speak and the natives don't.
Yeah.
And again, this is what we would in sort of modern terminology call microaggressions. If we would call it insinuations. None of it's stated outright, but it doesn't have to be. A lot of it's dog whistles, which is why I think gets to me a little bit.
Well, speaking of dog whistles and dogs, and anyway,
yeah.
The next thing, it looks like you can see there the dogmatics in this big a Great Dane, believe it or not.
Yeah,
obviously,
Great Dane.
had to be. Is they're exchanging woofs, and they're they're laughing their asses off. They're the only two that actually can understand one another.
Yeah. It says here, that's an interesting point, Hops. In the Danish version, they solved the difference by making the Vikings talk in a highly poetic syntax, which is interesting. The next page, I think we're probably okay to show the next page.
Okay.
You know how we talked about Asterix and Obelix making a show for the natives and miming to them? They try this with the Nords, and you see it here with the Danes.
Yeah.
And again, I don't know why I keep using those two terms interchangeably. They're not. But this is the show they put on for the natives with much the same result, which I think is hilarious.
It's all right. Yeah. It's all right. I think they get the idea.
Yeah. These goals are crazy.
So I'm realizing. Yeah, I am realizing we are going to try and get a bit through this a bit, but
So I do like this. Harold Wilson is writing the saga about these raiders. This little old man.
Harold. I love that. Harold Wilson. That is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing you caught that one. I didn't. I love that. For those who don't know, 1975. That was the British Prime Minister, Harold Wilson. So that's definitely very much a British English-centered joke. I'm sure that it's not translated into any other language, but he was the British Prime Minister through most of the 1960s, and then he was out of office, and then he came back for a couple of years in the mid 70s. So
yeah. So right, don't
darling Harold. Next page. Do you want me to? Right. Do you want me to? Do you want to get it off the screen for a sec then?
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. Now, so at least I can get. Okay. Yeah, I see why now.
So we have.
I will. The only thing I will say about this page is that there's a that the Native Americans construct this totem pole with made out of Obelix on the bottom, Asterix, and then Dogmatic sitting on top. That was I don't know. That was I was tickled me a little bit, but
it's
on the
ticklish,
whole,
but it's also catches because it's it strongly insinuates that the natives develop a culture of worship.
Yeah.
Towards Asterix, Obelix, and Dogmatics, which
I'm gonna say this whole, and I want to just actually I will address that point very quickly as well, because this is a very misoverblown thing that when like white Europeans first encountered natives everywhere, that the instant thing was they thought that the white men were gods. That is absolute bollocks. I think that may have happened once or twice in history, documented. I mean, there's this famous story with the Aztecs and the Spanish, because it did happen to coincide with a little bit of Aztec mythology.
and they, gods coming from out of the sea.
Yeah, there was going to be a god come back to ruin them. But I think by the time the Spanish they actually got there, that the Aztecs soon became very well aware the Spanish were not gods, and certainly again with and it's just become like a thing a lot of the time that like some tribe in Africa or whatever that they make the white man a god. It's an overblown thing.
It's deeply problematic. I will say as well, I'm only repeating what Ring said here. I don't know. He says totem poles were just in the Pacific Northwest. So being right in what we would presume is prehistoric, pre-urban New York is not the Pacific Northwest, is it? So there's that as well. And totem poles are a celebration of a life. They are they depict events. So in the sense of it's drawn almost like, because the chief's daughter lays a wreath at its feet, almost like it's a headstone. I can kind of see where they'd get that from.
Yeah.
If you, like me, have no understanding whatsoever of how totem poles work. But it still sticks. Yeah. That's what I have to say on that.
I do like...
I'm limited in what I can say because I don't want to say anything that's blatantly incorrect. And I just don't know.
Okay. I'm on a page now where they're in the fog again, going back across the Asterix and Obelix are on there so they're going into the
with this one, yeah.
They're on the crossing back now, and they end up back in somewhere there in Scandinavia, shall we say? We don't quite know where, but I do like that. I do like one or two of the little things, like where the Nilfheim have you been? As opposed to where the hell have you been? They're out on a raiding expedition, and hero ended the lesson, went for a cruise. But it looks like
we found our unhygienics and fully automatics of the raiders, I think.
Pretty darn much, yeah, pretty much. And they're like they're having this bit of an argument over who's plundered the most and why haven't you brought back more? And Asterix is trying to introduce himself. We're looking for a little gauche. Who are these clowns? What are they saying? They're from the New World, but no one you can't understand their language. So we get into here. Let's hear this saga. Oh, Harold Wilson, I love that. I'm gonna say he doesn't look. I don't think he's drawn much like Wilson, though. I'll say that. But so he's obviously with the British. He doesn't look like Wilson. So they stuck a pipe in his mouth. That would have been really funny.
Yeah. But he's being trying to give a speech and being interrupted, and
I guess he's a skald or something, like a poet type of thing, and was going to but he's got no real patience to tell this epic story.
Yeah.
But they do point out that they found out Obelix has got superhuman strength. They point that out. So drink, eat merry, have a fight, so get drunk, party, and then have a big fight at the end of it.
And then I mean, this next scene is interesting because they're served drinks by a fellow Gaul.
Yeah, it's a Gaulish slave
who appears to have been captured and enslaved. Which I kind of I mean it's accurate. This version of slavery that we see here with the raiders and their culture is more like what would have been accurate to the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is pre slave trade triangle between Africa, America, and that's well before this. This is more like they didn't care where you were from or who you were.
If you were
captured, you were captured.
But I do love this. The sort of jokes at the bottom of the page with this. But you got this guy. He recognises that they're Gauls, and he says you can talk to these people from the New World. He's like, New World? They're Gauls, same as me. Sorry, same. He's like, and I love the fact New Worlder. So you've been sloping off to Gaul with what's that? Chasing the Letician girls, eh? I love that. It's like he forgets.
Yeah,
and
then it descends into a brawl.
Well, he threatens to chop up the Gaulish slave, which is no. Obelix is like,
oh no, you don't. Having none of that.
Not on my watch. Thank you. And you know what's going to happen here. And so as this big brawl comes up and said, "Come on, quick!" But the Gaulish guy's trying to get him out. He says, "Oh, it's not very polite to leave like this." Obelix enjoys a good fight, but he's like,
Obelix enjoys a good fight, and he thinks this is just normal.
But of course, the slave, obviously, he's thinking, "Hey, this is my chance to get away," and I got to, I love his name, Catastrophics.
Yeah, Catastrophics. Now, I'm not entirely sure enough about the culture to know if this is a bad trope that's just carried over from propaganda that cultures make of other cultures throughout history, or if it's potentially accurate. Where he says they're very cruel, they want to sacrifice you to their gods. He tells them to make them leave.
Wasn't I'd say not unheard of, but probably greatly exaggerated in a lot of accounts as well. I think what I did know sometimes that when like there was like an invasion or something, that they might commit what would be what we would consider an atrocity or something to maybe scare the rest into submission.
I'm going to give an example I'm going to give an example that's not of this culture. There's a famous story of Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
Killing and pillaging his way across sort of modern day Russia, Mongolia, that kind of area. Killing his way across and just wiping entire towns and villages off the map. And piling up the bodies and the bones and things as a warning to the next town. This is what happens to you if you don't do as you're told. Basically, if you don't hand over the reins.
Hops actually said Vikings did that, yes.
Right, okay, yeah, Vikings did that. Fair enough. I didn't know, I didn't want to assume. Thank you for clarifying, Hops. So in that situation, they did that. But the fact that I didn't want to assume, and the fact that I know that that's such a trope that people give about cultures they don't understand says a lot, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to Genghis Khan. He would do this, and it got to the point where the stories of the things he did and the horrors he left behind was so much that he literally got to the point in some places where he would walk into a small town or a village, and they'd just hands up, it's yours, mate.
Yeah.
Carry on.
Well, I think we're getting very close to the end of this book, so I think we should try and get there now. Turns out he's a fisherman. He's got his boat. This little Gaulish guy. He says, "Great." We said we'll be able to. So we'll be asking a favour on the way home, and because obviously remember why they set out on this whole voyage to begin with was to catch fish. The Gaul, they go run. They realise the Gauls have escaped. He's made off with a boat. So tell me your tales of a new world.
I'm sorry, I'm just giggling at Hops in the chat. If anyone wants to go read that, it's 4 different comments, so I'm not going to show them, but you amuse me, Hops. Yeah. To be fair, a lot of cultures are very fond of chopping people's heads off and displaying them. It's not always in honor of gods.
Well, I mean, obviously, you know, I mean, like what a name of art, you know, I mean, obviously the word
Cromwell was quite fond of it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, but like, I mean, a lot of people from Europe probably have Germanic kind of heritage. I mean, obviously, our name of England is derived from the Angles, and which were one of the tribes that came across. Obviously, the Saxons are the most, but they were all Germanic and had the same mythology as the Norse and Danes here, same gods and everything. The names might have been slightly different, like there was Fernar and was Thor, and Woden obviously was so it's just like, but essentially
in a very similar manner to Greeks and Romans, again, because that's my area. Same stories, different names. It happens, although I'm not entirely sure how much of that is because it was borrowed and how much of it's just linguistic drift. In the case of the Norse and Danish cultures and the Saxons.
Anyway, a few days later, your Cacophonix is down there on the 6th and strumming this, and it's like they're back. And he's helped them with a good catch. But I love this fresh fish. Yeah, not unhygienic. It's not bad, but rather lacking in aroma.
Yes, as I said earlier, fish is not meant to smell. At least not fresh fish.
And they've I won't do that last joke, but then I love the fact that I do like the fact that you got unhygienics sulking in the corner about the fish during this banquet.
I will say with the fish, like, because we've kind of touched on North European cultures in this, there are in some Slavic countries, I know, Scandinavian countries, there are some really nice fish ways that they keep fish that most people who are not used to would balk at and probably wouldn't be able to stomach. I know like fish in jars and things in like vinegar and oil and stuff that
right, so I can get this off the screen now, can't I?
Yeah, we can take that off the screen. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
So
I'll put myself back on camera for the last few minutes.
There's ways of getting fish that
I haven't been on camera much. I've been having some issues during this stream, so I need to take some painkillers when we get off. So
we'll take a break for a few minutes. Fairly quick then. But yeah, if you ever get the chance to try sort of, I'm sure Hops can give us the name of a few dishes. It's essentially fish in oil or fish in like a mixture of vinegar, onions, oil. There's lots of different styles. Do try it. It smells awful, but it's nice. Yeah, like spiced herring on rye bread.
Yep.
Hops has just said. I lived off that as a student for a few months. It was amazing. I had a shop over the road that sold the herring or the it's basically what we would call sardines in a can. That's what it's like, but it's got more spices and stuff in it, and it's a lot more flavor.
I mean, we've got to end that. I don't think there's much we can really sum up on, because I think we've gone through all the issues we had with this book at nauseum throughout this stream. I mean, it was a fun story, but it is marred by those depictions of Native Americans it is very marred by that.
Yeah, and I do think with this one, it's not the story that we're going to remember of this one.
That is the issue. I think that's not, you don't come away. That's not the takeaway from this. To me.
Yeah, no. At least with the Cleopatra one, the story was there, and there's fermented fish,
and
whereas the story here, there's very little plot going on.
Yeah,
the jokes that are there are problematic, except in the case of maybe one.
Yeah.
The politics are very pointed. There's a lot of dog whistling going on. There's a lot of insinuations going on that are not pleasant. I will say, and I've heard this from various sources, including from Scummer, this is as bad as these books get. So you'll never see another stream from us like this.
I hope not, anyway. And I got to say though,
talking politics.
I do have to say that, clarify though, there's a lot of the later books by Uderzo that he did alone that I haven't read. So, but this is the one I think everyone sort of talks about. This one.
Yeah. So on that basis, as far as we can tell,
and I'll just we'll be wrapping up.
We'll get to that.
I will just say One Ring's put in the chat that Media Musings will be delayed for at least half past, maybe even top of the next hour. But I do suggest that people go and watch Media Musings this week. This is going to be a good one. And I'm hoping I'm going to jump on for a bit of this because I believe it is H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds.
It is, and it's going to be fun because we're discussing it across all media types and presentations of it. So obviously the novel, but also various films, various mini-series, dramas.
Can I just want to show something because I will have to do a little change of shirt before then, but
if you don't wear that on the next stream, I'm going to be disappointed.
That is, and that's the Jeff. That's obviously Jeff Wayne's musical version.
Yeah.
But and I'll say that it's quite, of course, because it was Halloween yet, and I'm sure this was part of Ring's planning of this. This is Halloween yesterday, this is around about the anniversary of the famous Orson Welles broadcast.
Yeah.
So it's
that's a pure urban legend. Or at least the outcome of it is a bit of an urban legend.
It's interesting. Let's just say it's interesting. It's interesting, and we'll save that for Ring's stream. But there's a teaser for people, so please go and watch Media Musing on Rings. And I'll say, anyone wants to go and give One Ring a sub as well. He is criminally undersubbed.
He is, yeah. So do go check his stuff out. He is turning out to be. Now, I knew he was always into D&D, but he's turning out to be an amazing DM. Like, I've watched him go from strength to strength as a DM, so do check out his D&D stuff as well.
I was about to say something out loud, and I thought, oh, phrasing, but I was going to say, Rig and Hissy took my cherry last night.
Yeah, we took your D&D cherry last night.
My Dungeons and Dragons cherry. I think it's his first sign of midlife crisis that you hit 40 and all of a sudden you're playing Dungeons and Dragons.
But if that's your midlife crisis, I mean, I'm not going to say it's cheaper than buying a Ferrari because long term it's probably not. But we can definitely. I hope you enjoyed it. And it's nice to be able to finish on this lighter note. And I'm just going to take a moment and ask you what you think of it. Now you've had an overnight to absorb the game.
It's interesting. I definitely, because obviously we got to finish that game. I think it's still an awful lot. It's a lot to take on board. But I think for a first time, it was like once I started to get a rough idea of what I was doing,
Yeah.
so okay, I'm getting into this a bit now. I just didn't know what the hell I was doing at first. It was like,
I will say the learning curve for D&D is incredibly steep to anyone who doesn't play it. And Jeff, you well impressed me yesterday because you went in the space of that 3 hours we were on. You went from I don't know what the thing is to I'm going to roll my initiative, and that was really nice to see. You impressed me with how quickly you picked up the basics.
To be fair though, Ring pretty much made my character up for me, so
that game last night was the first game I've ever set up my own character, and I've been playing D&D about 18 months.
Yeah. Anyway, I will say though, for next week though, we're going to have a much more fun Asterix story, and I'm going to say I've been looking forward to this for ages because we're going to do my favourite Asterix book next week on my channel.
I'm just gonna
and it is called Obelix and Co. And it is my absolute favourite. And I think obviously you've not read it yet, Hissy, but I think this is one you're going to enjoy.
Ooh.
I really think this is one you're going to have a lot of fun with.
Now I'm interested. I do have to say as well, it's nice after the heaviness of this stream to just see the way you lit up when you said that.
Yeah, but it's also one where we could have a little talk about things like politics and economics and
more
stuff.
London School of Economics jokes.
Not saying anything. We could have some jokes about that in this, and it be a good night, still be a nice, good, light-hearted stream. So yes, Obelix. I am looking forward to Obelix and Co. And we're gonna. I think after this one, we probably do need something that's going to be a lot more fun. I promise you, next week's one will be far more fun than this. And Hops is agreeing that one is fab. Yeah. I promise you were gonna like this book, Hissy.
Oh, now I'm curious. Yeah. Now I want to see, because I've learned that anyone who knows me, who tells me I'm gonna like something, means immediately it's got fun politics, it's got fun history stuff in it, and I'm just now I'm interested.
Yeah, look at it.
So there's your teaser for next week. It's gonna be fun. As Ring would put it, these streamers are crazy, so take that how you like. And so next week, Obelix and Co. Media Musings in an hour over on Ring's channel. Come join us for a War of the Worlds special. Half an hour to an hour, Ring has said, because he's running an errand, so keep an eye on your YouTube. Press the bell on his channel. Get subscribed, and then you'll know when he goes live. And we will see you there.
Okie doke.
And Jeff, anything you want to show?
Not particularly. Obviously, it was Shield Rings. Until obviously, the one thing I've got planned is what we're doing next week on my channel, which we've just talked at length about. It's the only thing I've got planned. Just look out for me because actually, I think I'm gonna be on Linda's stream again. I came on as a sort of last minute on Thursday, and she's asked me if I want to come back this week. She's in the chat at her channel, A Bit of Tea in Danish. Give her a sub as well. She's undersubbed.
Yeah, definitely. I think most of our audience who run channels are pretty undersubbed. So just subscribe to everyone you see in the chat. Let's all we're all one big community here. Let's, lift each other up. But we're going to give you your at least 20-minute, if not 40-minute break. Grab a snack, grab a drink, come and join us for War of the Worlds. And taglines, Jeff?
I don't do taglines, so I shall just say goodbye and salute.
And as always from me, take care, be good, and if you can't be good, be careful.